Welcome to 4C Radio. We are broadcasting from the central campus of Christ University, Bengaluru. 4C Radio is brought to you by the Department of Media Studies, Christ University. For all those who are looking for a platform that focuses on communities, commons, climate, and communication, this is the place to be. What's more, this station is run by a diverse community of students and dedicated faculty members. Tune in to experience hard hitting interviews, fact checks, and myth busting, on ground stories, campus news, and more. This is the final episode in the 4-part series that 4C Radio is bringing out in collaboration with SEEDS, Sustainable Environment and Ecological Development Society, an organization based in Delhi that has been working for over 30 years towards protecting lives and livelihood in the wake of climate change, natural hazards, and human made disasters. In this 4-part series, Prachi Pinglay traveled to different pockets of New Delhi, capital of our nation, and spoke to people living in difficult conditions battling extreme heat, floods, and loss of livelihood due to worsening climate change. In this final episode, Prachi Pinglay is in conversation with Anshu Sharma, Director of SEEDS, to explore some of the issues raised in these episodes and discuss possible policy solutions.
Good morning, Anshu. It's nice to talk to you after a very, very long time. Welcome to 4C Radio show and episode. This time we are basically looking at the fourth and the final episode of this series, which we are collaborating with Seeds. It's about climate change, it's about Delhi, and it's about summer, and it's about floods. So, could you just reflect on what we have really been through in the past few months while we were trying to make these programs? We have met lots of people, we have read up a lot, and we know what the problems are, but I just wanted you to reflect on what we have seen so far.
Hi, Prachi. Great pleasure being on this show with you. And thanks for, having these conversations with us and with the people of Delhi. It's such a wide-ranging subject and therefore a wide-ranging set of thoughts. But Delhi is, as we all know, really historic city. And so when one thinks about Delhi, and since I do work with maps and cities, I don't know which Delhi to think of immediately. And to be honest, while we see so many problems around us, and that's how we are having this conversation, but what comes to mind is the beautiful images of Delhi, central Delhi with its wide avenues, with its giant
Absolutely.
trees, which is shaded in the summers. I remember my father used to have a scooter, and sometimes we would go in the summers, or he would pick me from school. And when we crossed those roads, Akbar Road and Shah Jahan Road, even in the peak of summers, one could feel droplets on your face, not just a
Wow.
cooler breeze, but you could feel droplets and you could hear the birds up there. And it was so beautiful. And there were those jamun sellers sitting under that. So for me, images of Delhi are somewhere there. I was born and brought up in Delhi. And of
Mm.
course, I can't think of Delhi and not think of the Yamuna. So, when now we have
Mm.
conversations around heat and flood, which are all in slices, it's just one single green and blue memory, and me as a child, so probably a lot of children that I think of when I think of Delhi. So it's
Yeah.
historic, it's beautiful, it's green, and if we are losing that at the edges, we really need to do something about it, Prachi.
Right. I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking about it, how really wonderful it must have been. And I lived in Delhi more than 20 years ago. And even then, it had some of this, I think. Like, I remember the onset of winter was perhaps the best time. And I don't know when it started to really become as difficult and challenging as it is today. What I wanted to ask was, from your subject expertise point of view, if you could tell us what can we expect now in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Okay, so I'm an incurable optimist. So I think it's gonna get much better,
Oh my
and I think
God.
and I think it'll get better because we're talking about it, and there are people talking about it, and there are
Right.
youngsters talking about it, and I think
Mm.
one of the things we need to resolve is that all of us often think of this as something that has to be solved from the subject matter point of view. And
Right.
therefore, as since you do call me a subject specialist,
Yes.
I think we need more of a mobilization than the specialists. It is the
Right.
specialists who've lost control, with all respect and apologies. But this has to be taken up by the
Mm,
people. It has to be
mm,
taken up in a way. Our governance system has been designed very profoundly, but not in the hands of the government alone. You can't solve
mm,
these things just by rules and regulations. And I think that's why it's important to look at the city as a large, beautiful picture that we want to create, but then
mm, mm,
keep zooming in, come down to the district levels. There are various districts with very different characteristics.
mm.
And by the way, you were talking about how beautiful it must have been, but there are parts of Delhi which are still really, really beautiful. There's a part
Yeah.
of the river which is amazing to walk along. There is a part of the forest which is beautiful. The ridge is beautiful.
Mm,
So if we go down, and for me, the hope lies in where, there was something in the 90s called, there was an amendment to the Constitution, and these were called the 73rd and 74th Amendment. The
mm,
74th talked about how more powers be given to the urban local bodies. So
mm.
73rd was
Yes,
Panchayat,
yes.
74th, right?
Mm,
So,
yeah.
in our case, municipalities and the wards and the councillors and then the mohallas, वो हमको याद ही नहीं आते हैं जब हम urban planning
Mm.
की बात करते हैं. But that's where the real power should lie, and our constitution makes a provision for that.
And
तो
perhaps
मुझे
that's where the real solutions
That,
actually are. Yeah.
absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely, right.
mm,
So, अगर हम right now what we do is there's a problem. Let's go and meet the lieutenant governor and the chief minister and the
huh,
secretary
huh,
environment. I would say,
mm,
who's going and talking to the at the sub ward level. So, in fact, there was a
mm.
time in Delhi when there was a movement called the Bhagidari movement. It was a nice
Acha.
initiative of the government, which was
Mm,
onboarding all the RWAs, right?
mm,
But
mm,
if we look at it like a little pyramid, then if you get the mohalla samitis and the RWAs, and then
mm.
you convene them at the level of a municipal ward, because the
Mm.
ward has a councillor who is your
Right.
voice.
Yes.
Every ward has schools. Every ward has different kinds of clubs and people where
Mm,
movements can happen.
mm,
Now, I'll also like to add that while we are talking about heat and air pollution and flooding, तो
mm,
बहुत सारी चीज़ों के लिए हम शहर का एक एक एवरेज फिगर लेते हैं. तो इफ़ वी टॉक अबाउट हीट,
mm,
हम बोलते हैं अरे दिल्ली का टेम्परेचर 47 हो गया, राइट.
mm,
जिस
mm,
दिन हम बोलते हैं ना दिल्ली 47 हो गया, या टीवी में या न्यूज़ में आता है, वो
mm,
दिल्ली दिल्ली 47 नहीं होता है. वो दिल्ली का कोई एक सरकारी मान्यता प्राप्त एक स्टेशन होता है, यूजुअली पालम एयरपोर्ट के पास
mm,
का स्टेशन. वो लिखते भी हैं ब्लैक में, राइट, पालम पे 47 था.
mm,
जिस
mm.
दिन जिस दिन वो सरकारी स्टेशन 47 पे होता है, उस दिन शहर का कोई हिस्सा होता है जो 35 लो 30s में भी होता है, और एक हिस्सा होता है
Right.
जो 50s में होता है, वो 52 53. तो अगर आप किसी अच्छे नेबरहुड की या जहाँ अच्छे पेड़ हैं, वहाँ एक अच्छा
Mm,
पार्क है, वहाँ जाकर के नापेंगे तो आपको टेम्परेचर 30s में मिलेगा. और अगर आप एक बड़े
mm,
चौराहे पे जाएंगे तो आपको टेम्परेचर 50s में मिलेगा. सो
mm.
there's a variation of about 15 degrees, a little more or a little less, on any given day. And that
Wow.
is
That's a
why the
lot,
ward
no?
is absolutely so. And the same translates into, again, you don't come to Delhi very often now, Prachi, but you must be, I'm sure you read in the papers how we
Yes.
suffocate during the October
Yes.
November pollution. So you
Yes.
would read figures. Delhi's AQI is at 450 or something. Our PM
Right.
2.5 is running at 500
Yes.
now. If you open, and there are various maps, there are government maps now that give you readings from various air quality monitoring stations of Delhi.
Yes.
And there's so many days you would open and you would say Delhi's at 350. I think I have a few screenshots of those. Delhi is at 350, PM 2.5. And there is one station up north which is running at 550. And there is one
Oh.
station down there in South Delhi which is running at 280, right? It's not a variation of like 10 20%. It is a variation
Oh.
of 100%.
Right.
which means it means two things for us. One is it means it's while there is a part of it which is a much larger North India airshed issue and it is coming from outside and various groups can be blamed for it, but there is a huge part of the air pollution which is local
Local, yes.
and it
Yes.
varies from ward to ward. There is a
Right.
ward which is way better than another ward. So there's something that's happening in a ward which is not okay, and there's something happening in a ward
Right.
which is much better. So it would be much easier
It
to learn. Yeah,
it would also then have a direct impact on the people who live in these wards, right? I mean,
absolutely,
and would it be right to say that there would be more vulnerable sections of populations who are kind of facing it or bearing the brunt of it and perhaps will be impacted much more in their health?
absolutely,
Like, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mm,
That's a great question, and I think, and I'm just thinking we should slice it
mm,
in two different ways. One is you could
mm,
slice it geographically. There is
mm,
a part of Delhi which is better off than another part
yeah.
because either it was planned better or it's maintained better or it
Mm,
has different kinds of features and densities
mm,
and a natural environment. There's another way to slice it which is around the ability and affordability of the people,
mm,
right? So
mm,
even within those geographies, of course, a worse off word is worse off per se.
mm,
But there was a study in Bombay by WRI, and
mm,
SEEDS has, and other organizations have done various studies in Delhi, which tell us that a slum in any given place is
mm,
about 6 to 7 degrees hotter than its surrounding neighborhoods, right?
mm.
So हम
Right.
लोग बात करते हैं urban heat island की, that cities are
Mm,
hotter than the countryside, but within
mm,
cities there are certain
mm.
pockets which are significantly hotter because they don't have
Yes.
green areas, they don't have
Mm,
trees, they have a lot of concrete or tin or whatever.
mm,
So
mm,
yes, there are winners and losers in this at every level,
mm,
at the city and at the ward, and probably that's where we should start looking at solutions, not in a
yeah.
top-down way, but what else happens within
Mm.
the city which can help.
In fact, हम लोग जब गए थे to meet the people, I also found another very interesting thing, like that especially the migrant population or those who have kind of been here and that they work really hard for very little money. They seem to have normalized this, मतलब हम लोग जब बात कर रहे थे तो for the first 15-20 minutes उनको ना मतलब they were not even acknowledging it कि they are suffering because of this and they were like हाँ बहुत तकलीफ होती है हम लोग काम पे नहीं जाते but the problem that they're talking about is कि इनकम कम हो गया या बच्चा स्कूल नहीं गया या whatever but then to trace it back to why are you falling sick, why are you not able to go to work, why can you only work half a day and not full day, तो वो लास्ट पॉइंट तक आने में बहुत टाइम जाता है सो आई फील दैट दे themselves seem to have बहुत एक्सेप्ट करके नॉर्मलाइज करके they're kind of going on and on when we spoke to people about the floods who are living in the Yamuna bed, right? So they were like हाँ हम लोग ऊपर चले जाते हैं हर बार टाइम बारिश आती है पानी आता है हम चले जाते हैं फिर हम लोग 10 दिन के बाद वापस आते हैं. I mean, they were just like, okay, like I don't know if
Yeah,
they're not okay with it, but what I'm trying to say is it seems to have become part of their life, like it has become um sort of like a given, like maybe slightly fatalistic. They think this is how things are. And how does one really sort of approach that or change that? Or I mean, you said we should have mobilization, we should have more people asking for things, and how does one then do it when it has almost become normal, like I mean, it's part of the deal sort of a thing.
I don't know the exact answer, but I think we need to probably look at a bit more of their perspective. क्योंकि
Mm,
आप जब बता रहे हो ना, you remind me that बहुत पहले हम लोग एक बार एक यमुना के किनारे एक स्लम था उसमें बात कर रहे
mm,
थे. And I remember this woman stood up and she said कि बाढ़ तो आती है, हम यहाँ 25 साल से रह रहे हैं, हर साल आती है, हमको मालूम है कि कैसे
mm.
करना है, लेकिन वो मेरी बच्ची स्कूल नहीं जा पाती क्योंकि सामने रोड है और उसको हमें क्रॉस करनी नहीं भेजती, स्कूल तो दूसरी तरफ है, आप यहाँ एक स्कूल खुलवा दो. तो हमारी प्रॉब्लम, मैंने कहा, तो अगेन, सो आई वाज गोइंग एट
Mm,
दिस एज यू सेड इन कोट्स एक्सपर्ट, सो आई सेड नहीं नहीं, आप
correct.
समझ नहीं रही, हम तो डिजास्टर की बात कर रहे हैं. वो कहती नहीं नहीं सर, आप समझ नहीं रहे हो, अगर बच्ची पढ़ लिख जाएंगे तो हम यहाँ क्यों रहेंगे, हम तो अच्छी जगह रह लेंगे, राइट? सो their
Right.
economic needs are actually
Hmm.
way higher than their
Hmm.
needs to be, facing this once a year flood, and they've
Hmm.
learned how to do this. They're still desperate to earn better, to do better for their children. So प्रायोरिटाइजेशन में ना ये चीज़ें बड़ी बदलाव दिखता है जब हम अपने नज़रिए से देखते हैं और हम किसी और के नज़रिए से देखते हैं, एंड यूर राइट, इट इज़ फेटलिस्टिक एंड इट्स नॉट ओके,
Hmm.
इट इज़ गेटिंग नॉर्मलाइज, विच इज़ सर्टेनली नॉट ओके. समटाइम्स इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज आई क्रॉस द
Yeah.
रिवर, वो नदी पर क्रॉस करते हैं आप, आपको नीचे दिखते
Hmm.
हैं वो, बाढ़ में भी दिखते हैं,
Hmm.
गर्मी में भी दिखते हैं. And the river, it is itself a story, another piece. जब हम
Yes.
बाढ़ की बात करते हैं, पिछले
Hmm.
साल काफी सारे न्यूज़ आर्टिकल्स छपे थे कि 25 किलोमीटर की जो लंबाई है, where the city
Hmm.
crosses, where the river crosses the city, it has
Hmm.
about 22 bridges, and some are under
Wow.
construction, and they
Hmm.
block. तो समय निकलता जाता है और
Hmm.
हम उसके साथ एडजस्ट करते जाते हैं, बट द फैक्ट
Correct.
इज द रिवर विच वाज वंस द लाइफलाइन ऑफ द सिटी नाउ इज इन सॉर्ट ऑफ द सिटीज बैकयार्ड. एंड
Hmm.
ऑल्दो मुझे बड़ी उम्मीद हुई थी 2017 में ना, द यमुना एंड गंगा वर रिकग्नाइज्ड एज लिविंग एंटिटीज
Yes.
लीगली.
Yeah.
और
Yeah.
मुझे मुझे लगा था कि अब हम शायद बच्चों को भी बताना चाहिए हमें, और यहाँ
Hmm.
जितने लोग रहते हैं नदी किनारे जो सूद हैं, उन
Hmm.
सबको मिलके काम करना चाहिए. और मुझे
Hmm.
अभी भी लगता है कि करना चाहिए. तो तो जो हमने ऐसा माना है कि एयर पोल्यूशन की समस्या पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड सुलझाएगा, और फ्लडिंग
Hmm.
की समस्या इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट तो डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट करेगा, और गर्मी
Correct.
के लिए एक
Correct.
हीट एक्शन प्लान बनेगा तो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट
Correct.
अथॉरिटी करेगी. वो वो
Correct.
वो प्लान्स तो बन जाएंगे, बट करना
Hmm.
इतना आसान नहीं है जब तक सारे विभाग, सारे लोग, सारी
Hmm.
आरडब्ल्यूएस, सारे वार्ड्स नहीं मिलेंगे और ये नहीं जानेंगे
Hmm.
कि हर हर किसी को एक लोकल एक्शन लेना है, और हर किसी का एक्शन अलग अलग भी होगा, वो टेम्पलेट
Hmm.
नहीं है, यू नो.
Right. और उसको we'll have to keep sort of improvising it also, right? Based on what the ground situation is, what the changing climate situation is, and all of that. So I think it can't be like written in stone कि ये करना है और ये नहीं करना है. I think
बिल्कुल
we'll have to
ठीक.
keep
तो
adapting.
I
हाँ.
think that's a great place to bring this to, and I think my concluding thoughts also become that दो चीजें करनी है हमको. एक तो उसके यूनिट को छोटा करते जाएं, क्योंकि
हम्म.
जो बिल्कुल हाइपर लोकल जिसे हम बोलते हैं ना, एक मोहल्ले में, एक
हम्म.
गली में, एक परिवार का जो एक्शन
हम्म.
होगा, वो बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट
हम्म.
है. उसके लिए हमें जगह बनानी
हम्म.
होगी, उसको वो मान्यता देनी होगी. और
हम्म.
दूसरा, ऐसे ही जब हम ओवर टाइम चल रहे हैं, देन क्योंकि उनकी कंडीशंस डिफरेंट हैं, इसलिए
हम्म.
उनके लिए जानना, एंड वे यू कम फ्रॉम, प्राची, कम्युनिटी रेडियो
हम्म.
जो जो एक
हम्म.
एक पूरे रीजन का रेडियो, एक देश का रेडियो, या एक शहर का रेडियो
हम्म.
कर सकता है, उससे कहीं ज्यादा
हम्म.
कम्युनिटी रेडियो करता है, क्योंकि वो ग्रैन्युलैरिटी लाता है. इसी
Right.
तरह अगर हम
Right.
कम्युनिटी वेदर स्टेशन की बात करते हैं, स्कूल्स में
हम्म.
लगाते हैं, तो वो अपने एनवायरनमेंट को बेटर समझते हैं. अगर हम
Yeah.
कम्युनिटी न्यूज़ लेटर्स निकालते हैं, जो कुछ जगहों पर होता है, तो वो अपनी चर्चा
हम्म.
करते हैं, अपने इश्यूज में जाते हैं, बिकॉज one size will not fit all when it comes to heat and floods and air pollution and any other problems of this nature.
Right, right. I know we wanted to talk about Delhi, but one last question I wanted to ask you about taking it out of Delhi. I mean, we are seeing similar sort of impact, climate impact bolo, pollution impact bolo, in tier two cities, in sometimes even in villages where there are industrial production around them. And a lot of these places, if you see the lists that people bring out, like most polluted, most heat, ये वो वाले जो lists निकलते हैं, उसमें lot of smaller cities I feel are having equally difficult time, but they somehow don't remain in the public narrative, right? हम लोग हमेशा दिल्ली, बॉम्बे, चेन्नई, or maybe Kolkata, Bangalore, we talk about all these places, but there are many cities who also go through the same. Could be Bhopal, could be Surat could be, Ahmedabad could be, like, Chandrapur, I remember, in Maharashtra, was once one of the most polluted cities. It was because of the cement factories, though it has a very big forest. So do you have like, what do you think will happen? Because India as a whole, or world as a whole, if we were to like really extend the argument, is not really divided by boundaries, right? I mean, um, how do you look at that, right? I know we want to go hyper local, for, let's say, places where there can be accountability and monitoring. But what about other cities and places where we don't even probably know what the issue is, or we know what the issue is, but we are not really doing much about it?
No, absolutely true. And you still named a few of the more prominent cities, but जो
Yeah.
हिंदुस्तान के करीब 8,000 नोन अर्बन सेंटर्स हैं, जिसमें से
Huh.
शायद 90% के हमको नाम भी नहीं मालूम है, याद होंगे
Huh.
और समझ आएगा वो.
And
Things are
urbanization is only increasing, right?
is
It's
only
not
increasing.
going down. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So अभी यूएन में भी एक न्यू हार्मोनाइज्ड मेथड उन्होंने लिया है कि आप सरकार की परिभाषा से मत चलिए, बट लुक एट हाउ अ सेटलमेंट इज बिकमिंग डेंस एंड बिहेविंग एज अर्बन. तो अगर हम वो डेफिनेशन लेते हैं, देन
Mm,
आई थिंक इंडिया इज वे अबव 80%, बिकॉज मेनी ऑफ आवर विलेजेस
mm,
आर as urbanized as urban centers, but
right.
in terms of these
Right.
problems too. But I
Mm,
think so दो दो चीजें, प्राची. नंबर वन, हम लोग जब when we talk about the climate, concentration of carbon and temperature rise, we have all seen maps which go up to the year 2100. हमको वो red
hmm,
line keeps going up.
hmm,
If you think about our plans that we are making, we make 20-year plans for cities. We have a
hmm,
vision 2047, 2050 तक सोच लेंगे. उसके आगे तो हमने सोचा नहीं है, right?
hmm,
So for those of us who are in the driving seat on all of these matters, we are thinking of our 20-year future. But we
correct.
have kids who will be walking this earth, probably will be in their 80s and fairly healthy in the year 2100, and we have no plan, no vision for them. तो मैं शुरू
Hmm,
वहां से कर रहा हूँ और मैं बच्चों से कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि
hmm,
अगर if we are responsible towards our kids, then we
hmm,
should be doing a number of things, like
hmm,
talking about the year 2100 and having a more long-term vision rather than thinking about the next term of office of the politician or the bureaucrat or ourselves,
hmm,
and our
correct.
terms. The second thing I would do
Absolutely.
is I would go back. I did study urban planning, and उसमें ना एक urban planner हुए हैं internationally, Clarence Parry.
Hmm,
Clarence Parry said that he defined the neighborhood. He said cities are the coming together of neighborhoods, and a
hmm,
neighborhood is that space within which an elementary school going child can walk to school in less
hmm.
than 10 minutes without crossing a major road, right?
Wow.
That
Okay,
is the
right.
fundamental block of urban planning. It is centered around children, it is centered
Hmm,
around the elementary school, and that defines a neighborhood, and the child's safety defines a neighborhood. So let's come back there, and instead of saying कि
hmm.
मेरे गले को क्या होगा और मेरे फेफड़ों को क्या होगा, let's say what's going to happen to our children. How do
I
we
think,
secure their
yeah.
future? And the
Yes.
third thing I would say is hand the baton to the children. They are very
Hmm,
capable, and which is why I
hmm,
believe the 1.5 million schools of the country should be the hubs for doing this. And I
hmm.
don't intend loading the kids with more curriculum, but
Hmm.
helping them know and giving them the power to monitor, to
To, hmm,
inform, to have these
hmm,
discourses, to talk to
hmm,
people in the neighborhood and get decisions taken there. That
hmm,
true concept of Swaraj, unless we
hmm,
go there at this
hmm.
level, we will just sit with plan after plan and report after report
Yeah.
and maybe more episodes. But that's where I think we need to get, Prachi.
Is there anything else that you want to mention or talk about, which we've covered some parts, we've not covered a lot of other parts, but is there anything that you want to leave the audience with, like this is what we should go think about when we go away from here?
There's so much more to talk about,
Yeah.
but I would just say that, it has to start with exactly where you are right now. It has to
Right.
start from your home, your family, your neighborhood, your child's school, your municipal ward. Know your counselor. Most of us don't even know who our counselors are.
Mm,
I think we need to really shift horizons in many ways. And the two
mm,
most important are stretch your time horizon. Don't think about 2026 ka summer and winter. Think about 2100 ka summer and winter and how your child is going to be surviving that. And in terms of the governance horizon, don't look at your chief minister and your secretary. Look at yourself. Look at your RWA president. Look at your municipal councillor. The principal of your neighborhood school, and start from there. I think
Right.
till we do that, it really won't work. And the moment we
Yeah.
start doing that, I'm so confident we will see instant change in the air.
Alrighty. Thank you for this conversation. And we'll talk soon and talk more about other things, and we'll keep the conversation going. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Anshu.
Thank you for triggering this and
All
facilitating
right.
this, Prachi, for us. Bye bye.
Although this series was about Delhi and how climate change and extreme weather affects its people, it is known that people of other cities in India and the world face similar difficulties. As pointed out by Anshu, it is important for local governing bodies and citizens to engage and take charge of issues that can be handled at local level before it is too late. Thank you for listening to this podcast. As always, stay curious and tune in for more. This episode was hosted and edited by Aditya Srinivas. Reportage by Prachi Pinglay and illustrated by Vernika Singh. Signature tune was composed by Dr Ananthu. Please write to us and follow us on X, Instagram, and LinkedIn.